what are we talking about here? And then the figure that he gave me, I was like, oh my God, like how could I turn that down? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, where do I sign? So, you know, the fight with Amir Khan, in my mind, I thought to myself, you know what? It is David versus Goliath in there, but it is great money. And like, if I can just land one on his chin, I might be able to chin check him. So let me just try, you know. And me and Amir Khan are friends, you know, like we're good friends. So, you know, and he was like, in his mind, he was like, look, I'm just happy to be giving you the money and nobody else. And I was like, well, I appreciate that, but I am going to try to knock you out. Just know that, you know. Anyway, as you may have seen or may have not seen, it was definitely David versus Goliath in the ring. He was like a monster. When I got in the ring, I was like, I'd like overeaten. I was super fat. I was 65 kilos and he was 77 kilos. So, you know, like he was massive. It was huge. But it was cool, you know. Anyway, then, so I've come back after that fight and then flew back to Australia, decided I was going to do another promotion at home. And we picked out this kid who was from Vietnam, who was undefeated and was basically training in the US and doing a bit of stuff in the US, a bit of stuff in Vietnam. He was undefeated. And we contacted the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman, and he was like, because you did the fight with Amir Khan and showed great courage, we're going to allow you to fight for the WBC Australasian title, which puts you back in the top 15 in the WBC rankings. And I fought this undefeated kid who was as well, again, another young, hungry lion.
Van Tram, right?
Sorry?
Van Tram.
Yeah, and he tried to kill me. He tried everything. He was trying dirty tactics, anything he could do to try to hurt me. Anyhow, I ended up beating him on a lopsided unanimous decision, and I put myself back in the rankings. You know, I've got a great relationship with Mauricio Suleiman for the WBC, and so obviously right now I'm in this position where I'm ranked number 15 with the WBC. But for me, to be quite honest with you, Michelle, it ain't about winning another world title or getting back in position to fight for another one. I just want the marquee fights now. I just want to get myself into a position. Well, I feel like I am. I feel like I've got a name in boxing. You know, it's not like I know I have 6 losses in my record. I've got 46 wins and 6 losses, but all my losses are in world title fights or at the top of the mountain. The 5 losses that I have in my career are, you know, Stephen Loevno, WBO world title, Gradovich, 2 fights, that's the IBF world title, WBC title against Mira, and then the IBF super featherweight title against Tevin Farmer. So, you know, like I've definitely only lost in world title fights, and the other one was the WBC international title against Amir Khan. But hey, can you really even consider that a fight, a featherweight versus a welterweight? But it is what it is. It sort of reminded me of
more of them lopsided style fights though these days for whatever
reason.
It
actually reminded me so much of Mayweather's last little exhibition bout with that small featherweight guy that he boxed. You know what I mean? Like it's like it was a novelty thing. You know what I mean? It was really nearly a novelty thing. You know, it was the first time they were doing a show in Saudi Arabia. But what I want right now, and what I've got my mind head fixated on, like I just want these fights, and these are the only type of fights that I want. I'm not looking for people like Ryan Garcia. I'm not looking for people like Devin Haney. I want people who are like established names in the sport, like veterans of the sport. And what I mean by veterans, you know, great fighters who have a name. People like Leo Santa Cruz, Carl Frampton. But the top of my pick, the one that I really, really want, is somebody that I know and he knows me, and we've been friends for many years and we've trained together, is Abner Mares. He's the one that I really, really want. And I know he's no longer training now with Robert Garcia. He's training with Andy Ruiz's old trainer, which is, I think it was his name. Is his name Andy as well? Or is that Andy? Garcia's old Ruiz. Andy Ruiz's old trainer, is his name Andy Garcia?
Well, his most recent was Manny Robles.
Manny Robles. Well, I think Abner's now training with Manny Robles. So, you know, and that I would really love to go head to head against Mares and Robles, you know, with Billy Hussein being my trainer. We'd love that fight. That's the fight that we really, really want. I spoke to Ellie Sackback about it the other day. I've spoken to a lot of people. The fight would be something that I think would create some interest. There's history there. See, I've known Abner Mares since we were 14 years of age. the first time I ever met him, he was a young kid fighting for the Mexican team, and we met at the World Championships in Hungary. He was 14. He was just like really cool, down to earth guy, and he won that tournament. He won gold, and then he won fighter of the tournament. He was just amazing to watch, as an amateur. And then I seen him again at the World Junior Championships in Cuba. So this kid was just like, he was doing a good job. He was on the Mexican national team. He went to the Olympic Games as well. So like, he was obviously an established fighter. Became a 3-time world champion. But I would really, really love to mix it up with him. I know him personally. We spent a lot of time together. So that's.
Have you reached out to him? Have you said to Abner, like,
hey?
Yeah.
So because we're friends, so I contacted him. But obviously, when it comes to sport, we put friendship aside. And I rang him and I said, "Look, Abner, with all due respect, I am, and I would love to fight you, And I said, I know that you guys are sort of, once this pandemic's over, you guys are going to be looking for an opponent, and I would love to be that guy that you guys pick. I said to him, we've known each other for many years, and I just feel like it's a fight that I would definitely love." And he was like, "Look, man, I'll definitely be down for it. I'm down to fight you." He's like, "And if we can make that fight, why not?" He's like, he said, because he's obviously with PBC. He said that it would be definitely in the end, it's up to him to pick who he wants, but obviously comes down to people like Al Heyman and the team at PBC. But I'm an established name. I've fought some good names. I've won fights. I've lost fights. But I've always been in good fights, and especially my last couple of fights in America were definitely entertaining fights. I came there to entertain. I was involved in some really good entertaining matchups. So that's the fight that I want. And as I said, I've been knowing Abner for many, many years. I've always felt that I could mix it up with him. And I still do feel that way, and I would love to make good on that promise that in my mind that I can actually beat him.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've had a hell of a journey, okay? So I do hope from the bottom of my heart that you do get the fights you want finally. Do you know what I mean? Because honestly, you've overcome so much.
I feel like
I've had a lot of unfortunate setbacks, like that stuff. I get where you're coming from, because it's so easy for people on the outside looking in to say, well, he shouldn't have done that. He should have just canceled the fight. He shouldn't have risked it. But when you're in a position, like, people forget that fighters don't get paid until they get in the ring. So we're talking about months and months of training. You got to pay people, your nutrition, your coaches, everything. None of that comes free. So if you don't fight, you find yourself unable to pay people, or in debt for that matter. So
that's exactly where I was. And that's exactly where I was, Michelle. Like, I was going camp after camp and pull out after pull out, and like, oh man. And then it was just like, I never felt that I would ever in my life be in that position where I was caught in the middle of two guys fighting over a promotional company. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do?
So what, coming from this experience, like, what is your advice to someone who is in a position where they're looking for a promoter, the right promoter for that matter? What advice can you offer?
My advice is very simple. Number one, I had a really good team behind me, but we were just in a position where we were sort of stuck in Australia, and we were looking for a promotional company, and we sort of just jumped at the first opportunity. We didn't shop it around. We just, like, he made an offer. We loved it. It was awesome. We're going to be part of Floyd Mayweather and 50 Cent. These guys were the biggest duo at the time. Like, they were hanging out, having fun. They were doing things. I just wanted to be a part of it. But my advice to young fighters coming up in the game is make sure that you really, really go over everything before signing to any promoter.
You feel that you've been a victim to the facade.
Yeah, don't fall into the photo or the images on Instagram and the cars and all that stuff, and think that, when you see 50 Cent when 50 Cent picked me up for the first time, he picked me up in a Rolls Royce, and he was in a Rolls Royce, and there was a Lamborghini, and I was like, I was like, man, I'm 50. I don't need to get one of these. Like, you're going to get one of them. Don't worry about that. We're going to get you one of them. So in my mind, I'm like, these guys are going to get me a car. You know what I mean? Like, I was so young and naive, Michelle. Like, anyone that promised me anything, I would believe them. I was, you know, and boxing was...
We're all victims to that, though, Billy.
Yeah, you know, like boxing is one of them sports.
I've had some experiences where there's been promises made and jobs went to other people, even though they were promises. And it's how it works. Unfortunately,
it's very disheartening. I'll tell you one thing, Michelle, that the boxing industry is very, very good at. They're very good at it. And I'm sure that I'm not the only fighter. I'm sure a lot of fighters have experienced this. And reporters like yourself. You get promised the world, but they deliver you the world in an atlas book. They say, here's the world. I promised it to you. Here's the book. They don't deliver. People, like, it's like they want to impress you by promising all these things, but then they don't deliver. And then, like, you have this sourness between you. You know, like, for me, when I was growing up, I used to love 50 Cent's music. I loved his music. I loved walking out to his music. I thought it was fire. Now, anytime I'm in the car and his music comes on, I'm like, I switch the channel right away. I hate listening to the guy. I hate supporting anything that he does. Like, and that's sad because...
Have you had any contact with him since at all?
No, we just a few years ago shared some really bad text messages back and forth, you know. I said some really derogatory things towards him. He said some things back, and we just left it there, you know what I mean? That was the end of it, you know what I mean? But Michelle, my thing is that if he was as smart as he made out he was, right? He could have touched on something that nobody touched on. Like, he could have flown to Australia, right? When 50 Cent and Floyd Mayweather were going through this whole pandemic or whatever they were going through, right? What 50 should have done is he had SMS promotions. He should have come to Australia. I was a star here. I was a champion of the world. But if you bring a guy like 50 Cent, that's going to make me even bigger. You know what I mean? What he should have done was he should have come to Australia, forget putting an undercard on and forget all that crap. He should have did a concert, had a boxing ring in the center of the concert and said, you know what? I'm going to do a concert/boxing fight. I'm promoting a world title fight as well, and I'm doing a concert at the same time. How cool would that have been? How many people would have come to that? How many numbers would he have generated? Like, it would have made so much money, and he would be able to pay me the money that he owed me. He would have turned me into like a global star with it. That was the advice that I was giving him. Listen, forget this thing about, because there was a point where I was hell-bent on going back to America. I had lost to Stephen Lewevno in a really ugly fight. So I wanted to go back to America to show him that I was the real deal. I wanted to show him. So I was hell-bent on that idea. But then when this whole thing with Floyd was, I was like, listen, forget that. Let's just do these promotions in Australia. And we'll build from there. And we ended up doing it his way, and his way freaking cost us the world title. And
I'm a little confused. Maybe you can answer this question. Is I'm confused how or why 50 Cent got into boxing if it seems as though he really didn't have much of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like he really didn't have much direction as to what he was doing in boxing. So
yeah, his only direction was Floyd Mayweather. That was his only direction.
So are you saying, like, basically because of their friendship rift, it basically tore the plans apart?
Exactly. So basically what happened was, when I flew to America to sign with Floyd Mayweather and 50 Cent, Floyd Mayweather had just been incarcerated for that domestic violence situation against his partner at the time. And so he had left 50 Cent in charge. And while 50 Cent was in charge, he had signed myself, Yuriorkis Gamboa, James Kirkland, and Andre Durrell were the 4 fighters that were signed to the company. And there was an article that came out in a magazine, and it said New World Order. And it was me. It was in the front cover was 50 Cent and Floyd, and then it had the pictures of me, Gamboa, Durrell, and Kirkland. And so when Floyd had got out of jail, some things had started about Floyd and 50 Cent doing some certain things with Miss Jackson, I think her name was at the time. And well, that were the stories that were getting told to me. And then I got a call from a lawyer named Gary Saku, and he said to me, listen, just to let you know, Floyd Mayweather and 50 Cent are parting ways. And Floyd Mayweather is going to start his own, 50 Cent's going to start his own company. And so I was like, what the hell do you mean? What's 50 going to do? You know what I mean? But the problem was, Michelle, is that my contract was, 50 Floyd's signature wasn't on it. It was mine and 50 Cent's, and it said Floyd Mayweather on the contract, but he hadn't signed because he was in jail, right?
Oh, I see.
And on top of that, 50 Cent had given us bonus money. He'd given me, Gamboa, and all these kids bonus money. And I'm not sure whether Floyd was impressed or unimpressed with that. And so, you know, basically Floyd, I had a chat with him and he said, listen, give 50 Cent back the bonus money and we'll renegotiate the deal. And I was like, what do you mean renegotiate the deal? And I'm like, I thought that was a deal that you guys, he's like, nah, 50 had done things out of his own accord and I didn't tell him to do that and whatever. Well, the problem is that I had put that money in a long-term deposit and I had no access to it. And like, how am I going to get the money to just give it to 50 Cent or give it to like Floyd? You know, I didn't have it to give it back. It was in a long-term deposit and I wasn't going to be able to get it back for a few years. So that was the situation, you know. And so I got stuck with 50 Cent via something technical, right? And then I think 50 Cent's thing was that, you know what, I'm going to do this without Floyd. I'm going to show Floyd that I can do it. So it became an ego thing. It wasn't like he knew anything about the game of boxing. It was just that he wanted to show Floyd that, hey, I can do this without you. That's all it was. I think that's all it was. I believe that's all it was. And so that's what happened. Very, 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 very sad.
Wow.
Very sad.
Yeah, it is, because in the
but one thing I truly do believe from the bottom of my heart, Michelle, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, is that everything in life only happens by the will of God. I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that everything in life only happens by the will of God. So everything that did happen in my career was only by the will of God. And you know, when I was a kid, Michelle, I used to pray and beg on my knees to God to let me become a world champion. I used to beg and I used to say, God, please, all I ever want in my life. I never asked for money. I never said, God, I need money. God, I just want to be champion of the world. Please, God, just let me. I used to pray and pray and pray. And you know what? God allowed me to become 2-time boxing world champion. He let me become an IBO world champion. He gave me a taste of it. And then he allowed me to become a legitimate champion, an IBF a featherweight world champion, like legitimate, you know, like recognized in the history books forever. And that was all I had prayed for at the time. That's what I prayed for. And God gave it to me. So here I was now. You know, I had achieved my dream, but I thought in my head, with the title comes money anyway, you know, because I had spent so much time with Prince Nassim Hamed, who was a multi-millionaire of the sport, Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, Bernard Hopkins. These guys had combined together, they'd made hundreds of millions of dollars, you know. And I was around that growing up. I was around it. I was with Floyd and I was with Shane and Oscar. I lived with Shane Mosley in his home when I was young. When I was 21, I was signed to Golden Boy Promotions. So I was around it. And I fought on the undercard of Winky Wright versus Corte, Mosley versus Collazo, Mosley versus Cotto, De La Hoya versus Mayweather, Katsides versus Casamayor, Hopkins versus Pavlik. So I was on some really big cards and I saw the numbers going around. And I thought, all I got to do is win that championship of the world and I'm going to be right there. So, you know, it is what it is. But the journey has definitely been amazing. And like, obviously, if I could go back in time and talk to a younger Billy Dibb through what I know now, I would tell him a few things. You know what I mean? Don't do this. You know, you wish you could go back in time. Sometimes I obviously wish I could go back in time for a lot of things. But my dad asked me a question the other day, and this question really hit me hard. And it's so funny because I don't know whether it was a telepathic moment, but my wife asked me the same question that my dad asked me at night. It's like my dad maybe, and I know my dad hadn't spoken to my wife, but my dad said to me, he said, listen, if you could go back right now in your life and not have your son and not have your wife bury right now, would you go back to being champion of the world? And I was like, absolutely not. No way in the world. Like, I've never experienced the happiness that I've experienced through my son, Michelle. Like, I love this kid. he makes me so happy, and I pray that God protects him from all the evil out there in the world, because he's the light of my life right now, you know. And as much as like that's the extra motivation that I have now to win these big fights, like I would do it for him. And then to top it off, I come home at night and I'm having a chat with my wife, and she's like, listen, would you ever trade him? Would you trade him to go back to your championship days? And I was like, no way in the world. I said, that's so crazy that you're asking me that, because my dad asked me that today. I'm like, did you talk to my dad? She's like, I didn't. And I was like, I would never. I said, no, I said, listen, when he was born, he was the real championship that I had, you know, been waiting for. He was everything that I wanted, and he's still like, he makes me so happy. I love him so much, Michelle. He's like, I protect him by not putting his image out there. People don't even know what he looks like, because I'm just so protective of him. I don't post anything of him on social media, and I sort of feel a little bit guilty, because when I was younger, I used to post my niece Sophia on there 24/7. So I exposed her to the whole world. Everyone knows who she is. I promise you, me and my niece Sophia be walking in the street sometimes, and people are like, hey, that's that little girl that you always put on your Instagram and such, you know. And I was like, yeah. But I wouldn't do that with my son. No, people ask me all the time, oh, can you put a photo up? I said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to bring no evil upon him. Yeah. I feel like the evil eye is real, Michelle. It's real. And people sometimes they don't want to see you happy. And I felt like during the time that I was going through certain things in my life, people didn't want to see me happy. And so, you know, when they saw me going through the misery of my contract or through the misery of Sarah's death, that made them happy. And I don't want to give people are nasty, you know?
Yeah, no, I know. Definitely no. Well, you know what? I hope that you get the fight you want. So let's get that Abner Mares fight made.
That would definitely be a dream come true. Honestly, that would be like, it would be so fulfilling, you know, and then like, you know, like as I said to you, that there's like in my head there's a little bit of a plan. But if I could beat Mares, which I believe wholeheartedly that I can, I would love then to face, I think it's one of Eddie Hearn's fighters, which is Carl Frampton. I'd love to face Carl Frampton in a big fight in the UK somewhere, wherever they would want to do it. I'd be willing to travel wherever they want to do it. And then, you know, to top it off, wow! Imagine getting in a fight with Leo Santa Cruz to top it off. Wow, that would be a great exit strategy plan.
The best thing you could do right now is stay busy.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm in the gym. I'm training every day. Yep. So I'm
that
just staying.
All this is over, you know, when other people aren't ready, you are.
I'm going to be ready. Don't worry about that. I'm training at least 2 to 3 days a week in the gym, just because we can do one-on-one in the gym. At the moment, you're not allowed to train in the gym with a lot of people. You can do one-on-one, but you can't. So I'm happy because I'm getting this one-on-one time with my trainer, where usually our gym's really busy and whenever everyone's getting a little bit, but now I'm getting this like one-on-one time to work on certain plans. And in our mind, when we're in the gym training, we're actually preparing for Mares. In our heads, we're preparing for Mares.
Yeah, there you are. Well, I hope you get it. And you know what? Keep me updated, yeah? Please.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah, let me know should you get any news at all. That way we can put it out there. And then I'll make sure I drop this video link to Abner. Just let him know. Yeah. He's the target.
He knows. He knows. I've already spoken to him, but man, I'm just really looking forward to this time passing so we can get back to life.
Yeah, amen.
But I just really want to say thank you for your time, Michelle, and I really appreciate you taking time out to do this for me. And, you know, you've always been a good friend, and I'll always consider you a good friend. And whether it does happen or doesn't, I just appreciate you for what you've done.
Well, you know what? I genuinely hope the best for you, because if anybody deserves a bit of a streak of luck, it's definitely you, because I think you've seen and been through your trials and tribulations. So it's about time that, you know, you get some good. You already have some good now with your wife and your child, and now let's get those big fights made. Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and do so by clicking this icon right here and hit the bell button so you can get notified every time we upload a new video. And we also have a free app available on iTunes and Google Play, so make sure you go and download that. Bye Fight fans.